Title of the course is Cognitive Science and its BCI based applications using AI intervention. So the topic seems, a single statement, but there are so many things which are included in the topic. One is very important, that is cognitive science. Second term, which is very important, is brain computer interface, what we call as BCI, and then BCI related applications. So cognitive science has an important role to play in the BCI applications. It means the cognitive science is the philosophy, cognitive science is the pedagogy, cognitive science is the fundamental, cognitive science is the background on which the BCI or the concept of BCI is based. So all our applications of brain computer interface will be exploiting the concept and thought from the cognitive science domain. So we'll understand cognitive science and its concept. Of course, what is BCI, the thorough understanding about BCI, the important applications of BCI, and how the cognitive science concept is utilized in all these BCI applications using AI intervention. Of course, the role of intelligent computing. I think you all would agree with me when we say artificial intelligence, it is nothing but the intelligence acquired by computer, acquired by machine. So there, when we say artificial intelligence, computing, which is called as intelligent computing, smart understanding, smart interpretation is automatically involved. So there are four important things. One is cognitive science. Second is BCI. Third is using AI. How does AI help in the BCI applications? Those BCI applications which utilize the cognitive science concept. So with this, let's start with, cognitive science first. But in this particular lecture, in the very first lecture, we'll try to understand overview of the topic, overview of cognitive science, overview of BCI. Of course, we will not much talk about AI intervention in today's lecture. We'll try to understand what is the overview of the course, that is topic, what is the importance of the course, why it is needed, how it is used in number of real-time applications, and how it is very exciting and useful for carrying out a number of exciting research and development applications, research and development tasks. So with this, you can see that because I'm basically a person of image processing and computer vision, I started my research from image processing and computer vision. So you can see in all the PowerPoint slides, there will be always an image present. So look at the first slide, which is title slide. In the title slide itself, you can find an interesting picture. And this picture is nothing but highlighting cognitive science. So when you say I will formally define the cognitive science, but since this picture is present in the title slide, we need to understand what this picture depicts about. So you can see that what is very important in the center is you see there is a brain and it is interconnected with a laptop or a computing device. And you can definitely see that the signals are emitted from, there are some signals which are emitted from your human brain, and those signals are received by the computing device. So it can be clearly seen that there is a connection on an interface between brain and computer. So you can find brain computer interface is in the center. So the cognitive science is a domain that is purely multidisciplinary domain. It is not a single domain. So it covers, you see here, philosophy, linguistics, means it's study of philosophy, linguistics, psychology, AI, of course, neuroscience and anthropology. So what is the idea or what is the purpose of putting this picture here? To just give you an idea that what is cognitive science. So BCI is not alone cognitive science. Cognitive science does not only talk about AI and BCI. Rather, AI and BCI are part of the important components of a discipline called as cognitive science. As I have mentioned, whenever you feel that there is something which you want to clarify, you can always interrupt me. Or during the 10-minute break, you can always, give me the questions in chat box so that I can take up those questions and can respond in the remaining 50 minutes. All right. So what we will do in the this particular lecture, I'll be talking about very briefly about the course, why this course is important, what is this course and its impact, how impactful this course is, and then what is very important for all of us, whether you want to pursue your career in research or in teaching or in industry, everywhere I can tell you, research as an attitude, research as a culture is very, very important. Even if you are serving in an industry and you have some research skill, that will always give you an edge in, getting promoted or leading your group or, doing a wonderful role in your industry. So be it in industry, academia or research or corporate, this research based outcome or research always helps you something, greatly. And so one of the purpose is always to highlight the research component of the topic. So again, as I mentioned that in all my PowerPoint slides, you will find that there will be pictures and pictures. So at the top, you can find one interesting picture where the signal is coming and going to the computer. So this is nothing but highlighting the BCI, what is called as brain computer interface. The second picture, which is even more interesting, that is, look at here, you are interfacing the brain with the computer. The signal is going to the computer. Computer is trying to understand. Now you can immediately ask a question that how does computer understand? You all know that computer is nothing but a computing device. It performs a number of mathematics. So all those mathematics you train by using a logic, by using algorithm, what is called as AI or ML. So computer interprets the signal, computer attempts to classify the signal, tries to get some important features or extracts from the signal. These things all happen inside the computer with the help of AI or suitable ML technique called as machine learning technique. So it goes there, computer interprets, computer probably extracts the features. I hope when I'm saying that features are extracted, you are understanding. For example, take a simple example of biometrics, the fingerprint matching or the iris matching or the DNA matching. Suppose the in a biometric system there is the number of people are 1 billion or 1 million. So in 1 million biometric recognition, the recognition will not be taking place or working on the matching of all the fingerprint images or the faces. So what happens when you capture your face or fingerprint, some attributes, some parameters, some features of your fingertip or the biometric modality, if it is other modality, are extracted. They are trained by the device are using suitable ML, and those final attributes are stored in the form of template. This is a logic. So whenever you again test whether this is a authenticated fingerprint or a person, that matching takes place not in terms of the fingerprints or the faces as the images, but the matching takes place on the basis of attributes and features. So when I'm saying that computer understands, interprets, and tries to extract the features, and then the classification or whatever task is performed on the basis of working on those features which are extracted from the brain signal. So what is brain signal? What type of features are extracted? How the feature extraction takes place? How do we train those features? How do we understand those features? How do we classify those features? We will discuss in detail in the lectures to come. I'm just giving you an overview. Then what happens? What do we do? Using the BCI, what do we do? And where is cognitive science coming in picture? We will understand very, soon. So what is BCI? What does it do? So what does it do? It understands, it interprets the brain signal, and it can be the understanding of brain signal can be utilized in a numerous tasks. For example, it can be used for the diagnosis to solve the brain disorder or disability, which is not included here. Brain disorder or disability can be solved. The problem can be addressed. I will tell you in detail how brain disorder and disability are corrected, or attempted to be corrected by using the BCI based signals. And in addition to that, what you can see in the picture like wheelchair, robots, control. So some suitable commands can be generated. You can generate a command, to operate the robot or to operate the wheelchair, to provide the assistance to the person who is not able to walk and he is just, walking or depending on the wheelchair. So if the wheelchair can be operated, can be controlled by the commands, you can, just operate the robots based on your understanding, what is you are thinking. Based on that, you can simply control the robot by, you can say, mind controlled, brain controlled robot, you can say like that. I hope all of you, are keeping fine, but all of us have seen a very difficult time a year ago, where we all have seen how difficult the pandemic time was. And during pandemic time, you all must have seen the role of robotics, especially in healthcare. The robotic kind of, the applications and IoTs were used in the patient care to deliver the medicine, to deliver the food, to deliver the meal to the patients who were affected by the COVID-19. So, this is exciting area where a lot of applications are involved. And what is very, very interesting thing, you can see the signal is going again, back to the brain again. So you can also provide a feedback signal. So what is feedback? What type of signal will be fed back to the brain? We need to understand, and we will discuss in detail what is called as a feedback rehabilitation. Some disorder and disability in the human brain can be corrected by using or by providing the feedback signal. What would be the feedback signal? The feedback signal may be speech, or maybe text, or a picture that can be generated and will be sent to the person. And that picture, image, or voice, or text can create an impression, in his or her brain, so that, the reverse process probably may take place, and the disorder or disability in the structure or in the functioning of brain could be corrected. And believe me, a lot of research is going on, and a lot of companies are working in these areas closely, and days are not far where medical internet of things, rather, brain related disease and disorder could be, diagnosed with the help of internet of things kind of devices very, very easily. And even the rehabilitation, disorder, disability are, to be, means this is a very important and useful area in all these challenges related to the brain disease, we can say brain disease, brain abnormality. So this is the plan, that we will try to understand the overview. We'll try to understand the importance, and how can the course help you, in understanding it. We will try to discuss. So about the course, cognitive science and BCI, we will introduce this because in our course name, cognitive science and BCI are the two major, things. So therefore, we will introduce this. And then next is necessary background of biomedical signal processing and brain signal modalities such as EEG. Because see, cognitive science is a broad area. I will tell you later. It does not only talk about brain. Remember, brain is always involved. But biomedical signal processing, especially in the healthcare, especially in the brain disease and disorder, is very useful, where we acquire the biomedical signals. What are biomedical signals? Biomedical signals are extracted from any part of the body, but generally in the cognitive science application, we will extract the signals from the brain. For example, there is one signal which is given as EEG, electroencephalograph. You all probably are aware about the different medical image modalities, like you all understand CT, computed tomography, X-ray, radiography, medical resonance imaging, MRI, functional MRI, ECG, electrocardiogram, and so on. But these are the modalities not present in the brain. But in brain, EEG is there, MEG is there, functional MRI is there, PET is there, and there are many ECOG is there. We will understand all those modalities. So necessary background of all those modalities means all those different types of signals, how biomedical signal processing is used, how do we acquire these signals, how do we pre-process those signals, how do we process the signals, what kind of signal processing method is applied before we actually use AI for the classification or some other application. So that will be also one of the important content in the course. And then deployment of sensors for EEG recording. So when we are talking about EEG recording or ECG recording or ECOG recording or MEG recording, because there are different types of signals which are acquired from the brain for every or each and every acquirement of a signal. How do we deploy the sensors? Whether the sensor deployment is invasive or non-invasive? Do we insert some needles? Do we insert some electrodes inside the scalp of our brain? Or do we take it just from the outer surface? All these we are going to study. You can again means there may come a question in your mind that we want to understand BCI application. What does make it makes sense knowing about sensors and the deployment? Believe me, it makes huge sense when the deployment of sensor is not done properly, when the processing is not done properly, your functioning of BCI and the performance is likely to be adversely affected. So all these things like biomedical processing, how sensors are deployed, how sensors are used, how do we capture the sensory data, all these are very, very important in all the BCI applications. So therefore, we will try to understand these also. Analysis of EEG. I'm talking about EEG again and again. Definitely, I will talk about all the modalities, how different modalities are used. But why I'm talking EEG by default? Because among all the modalities, all different types of brain signals, 90, I would say more than 90% of research is based on EEG signal. Why? Why EEG signal is popular? Why doing research, on EEG is very popular and, widely used? We will definitely understand in the course in the next lectures when we compare all the modalities. Like for example, just we have not reached to that stage, but let us understand. Say there is one more technology called as MEG. MEG is magnetic encephalograph. So when we say magnetic encephalograph, you capture MEG signal. I hope you all are following me. I am doing very slow. So MEG signal, name itself magnetoencephalograph. So what will happen when you capture the MEG? If there is any magnetic element, iron element, near the acquisition system, so the system original signal which you are capturing is likely to be affected by any nearby magnetic field. I'm just telling you one aspect. I'm not giving you a detailed comparison right now. So every modality has its advantages and disadvantages. But despite the fact EEG is the most popularly used and researched modality, and therefore you will find that in most of my slides and the lectures, I'll be talking about EEG. And then application of BCI, because when we say application of BCI using AI, remember, cognitive science is a concept. Cognitive science is a, background. And what is BCI? BCI is an application interface that can be used in numerous applications. So applications are numerous, hundreds of applications are there, but we will try to, highlight particularly on cognitive ability, how the ability of a person, cognitive ability of a person is controlled or is affected by the BCI abilities, study of brain for disorders and disabilities. We will also study about rehabilitation. In the rehabilitation, in robotic control, in robotic based manufacturing, how BCI is useful and BCI is, utilized. We will try to understand. And then research scope of cognitive science and BCI, because one of my primary objective is always to help you having a research understanding, that research scope, so that you can just take out, something from the lectures, and you can, start doing some kind of research activities in this area. How? I will tell you. I will definitely tell you. So what are the main course objectives? What are the learning objectives we are planning it? Number one, to provide an overview and importance of cognitive science and BCI, to discuss scope of cognitive science and brain image modalities, because we need to understand different modalities, what are the different signals which are used and what are their scopes, to understand cognitive science assessment and its capabilities, and finally to highlight research scope on brain computer interface or BCI and its a number of aspects of cognitive science, how and where they are used, and how, the cognitive science domain helps, that we will try to understand. What will be the learning outcomes? I believe that after completing the course, you guys who are attending this course will be able to describe various aspects of cognitive science. You would be definitely in a position to explain what do we understand by cognitive science, and not in, what I can say, in brief, but you would be in a position to explain in detail. Second is to correlate the cognitive science with brain computing research. You will be able to correlate. Second is, and third is enumerate the research scopes of BCI and cognitive science. And the next one is the assessment. So assessment is very important. But as you all aware that you are not doing this course, as a some compulsory course like 2 credit or 3 credit or 4 credit course. So there won't be grading, but I would say that we will definitely do some kind of assignment. And maybe after 3 lectures, I will give you some assignment. Of course, it is not compulsory, but I can promise you, if you do that assignment, I can promise that at the end of this course, you would be in a position to write a good research paper, write a good research plan, reading a research paper critically, understanding the critical review approach will be definitely of your outcome if you really engage with me in doing a simple assignment. So I'll give you the assignment. Those who are very excited with a lot of enthusiasm, they can participate, and I'll be always happily, helping you even beyond these 10 lectures, 9, 10 or 12, whatever lectures we have planned. We will even beyond the number of lectures. You can just reach out to me and I'll be happily helping you based on my free time and availability. So assessment will be based on reading and writing. I'll be giving you some assignment that will be based on that will demand from you some kind of reading, critical reading, and to some extent writing, so that at the end of the course, I want, if you are 10 persons, why can't we write two good, research papers? The research papers may not be based on implementations, but we can just write a research paper discussing a critical review on a topic. And believe me, review paper is also published in highly cited journals. So let's aim high. So that is my objective. And the second assessment will be, where I would require from you a kind of document you can create, you can make a PowerPoint, and then you can also record a video and you can submit to me. I'll be giving you the topics and the learning materials by which you can easily do it. Again, as I'm mentioning, it's not very much compulsory, but those who do, I can promise that you would be learning, especially research paper writing. Detailed guidelines I'll be sending you later after maybe second or third lectures. I'll be sharing you the details of assignment and those who are interested, they can just, express their interest and would enhance the research writing skills. So that is the objective of assessment, which is purely optional assessment. So let's begin now with the term cognitive science. You see, in the cognitive science, there is a term cognition. So you use this cognition in many places. Recognize, right? We recognize, recognition. Everywhere that cognition terms come. How do you recognize? How do you recognize? Suppose all of you are meeting me first time. You all are meeting me first time. After a year or 2 years, you all can forget me, but say after 2 years during online meeting, or we can meet suddenly, while traveling at some particular airport, then you will try to recall, no, no, I remember this person. I recognize this professor. I think he was teaching us 2 years back from India, Bangalore. So what is the most important component that plays a role in the cognitive science is the brain. Some impression will be always there in your memory, and you will recall some impression about me, and then you will reconnect, and then you will say that, oh, this is Professor Sinha. He taught a course 2 years ago. So in the cognitive science, what is important term is a cognition. It's purely interdisciplinary and scientific study of the mind and its processes. In fact, mind, I'm sorry, mind may not be very appropriate term, because mind is actually the dynamic nature of your brain. I can say that, my brain is stable and it's physically, attached with my head, what I can say, but my mind may be anywhere. My mind may be, in your university, my mind may be in Italy, Singapore, or UK, but my brain, is always with me. So it's a scientific study of mind, and mind means it includes behavior, the behavioral dynamics, behavior, sentiment, emotions. All those studies are made, and how they are processed, how do they function. That, kind of study is involved in cognitive science. Intelligence and behavior. How do we gain the intelligence? How do we gain? How machine gains the intelligence just like the human brain? And then how do we understand behavior? We do a lot of research on behavior to find out how is the behavior of a person, whether the person is rude, whether the person is very humble, whether the person is a happy person, whether the person is, disappointed person. We try to study with a focus on how nervous system work, our nervous system, work. Then mental faculties of cognitive science, mental disciplines which are included under cognitive science are language, perception, memory, attention, reasoning, emotion, etc., etc. I believe that in the beginning, when you are listening to, me about cognitive science and about its introduction, you might not have come across all these terms, and you might, think that, I mean, this is very new, but it's very, at the same time, very interesting. So, and after some time, maybe after 2, 3 lectures, you will be acquainted, you will be very familiar with all the terms, I'm sure. Interdisciplinary study of cognition. I have told you what is cognition in humans as well as machines. Even there is a research about, going on the study of cognition in animals as well. So that aspect I will not be covering, especially the study of cognition in animals also. But I can tell you, those who are interested to do something in the, in the area of studying human, in the study of area of studying animals and their behavior, they can also think of applying the concept of cognitive science using the role of artificial intelligence and coming to certain conclusion. It's possible. That also is covered under cognitive science. The goal is to, what is the aim of cognitive science study? When we want to study, when you want to research, what is the aim? What is the goal? The goal is to understand the principles of intelligence, to better comprehend the mind and its learning for developing intelligent devices What is the main purpose? Like Alexa kind of device is there. Alexa is a intelligent device controlled by artificial intelligence and the sensor technology. How can we make more intelligent? How can we make the intelligent devices, the devices that could assist in the healthcare, in the robotics, in the self-driving car, where the understanding of emotion, understanding of behavior is also, embedded in the device. How can we make it possible? And therefore, it talks about comprehending the mind and its learning for developing the intelligent devices. Remember, whenever you all would agree with me, you are studying. Why do we study? Why do you pursue a career? Because you want to do something in your life, professional life. You want to, contribute something in industry, research, academia, or anywhere. What is the ultimate goal? Is to, contribute in the society for improving the quality of life. Why do we do research? To improve, to do something so that it can help the society in improving the quality of life. You could see how the healthcare sector, helped us during the pandemic. So that is what is the aim. So let's, target it, understanding how BCI and cognitive science concept are used in development of a number of intelligent devices. I know that today I'm going, like monotonous. In next class, we will make sure that in between you can, even interrupt me, or in the next class, I would probably ask some questions also. I'm asking you, but I'm responding as well. But in next class, I would hope that I'll ask the questions and we'll pause for some time. So, or after the break, we can, have question answer and then continue the next part of the lecture. So let's continue with the cognitive science. This diagram was already included in the title slide. There are a number of domains, study of mind and structure, and its sections that include all these. Like education is also an important, what I can say, important aspect of cognitive science. I have included one example where we are doing research in the area of learning assessment with the help of EEG signal that I'll talk about. So how people learn, how much we learn, how much we do not learn, how much we are confused, how much we are not confused. Say, I'll give one example. Online learning, especially during pandemic, online education was only provided to everyone. So what was the impact? Whether there was development of skill set, whether there was development of appropriate knowledge, appropriate professional skill set, was there, was it very impressive or not? It all can be studied using the cognitive science study. So this is an important area where the cognitive science, because when you say cognitive, when you say the education, pedagogy, or education paradigm, it automatically involves philosophy, psychology, psychological impact of education. How does it impact in our life? How does it impact in learning something? So that is why we are saying that this is also covered. You see here philosophy. What is philosophy? Study of knowledge, how knowledge is developed, how knowledge is acquired, how, knowledge is converted into reality and existence of something. How do we understand is the philosophical approach. Then AI, you all know, study of thinking like machine and system is AI. That is important component of the cognitive science. Psychology. Psychology is nothing but when we always use the term psychology, psychological study, psychological understanding. That's nothing but study of behavior and the study of mind. And then neuroscience, you all understand neuroscience, study of nervous system, because you all, probably are aware, we are talking about ML, machine learning techniques, and the very fundamental basis of development of all ML models is the neural network. We all start, understanding about ML, and we always study what is called as neural network. And we write some mathematics in computer. We try to, encode that. We try to code it using certain programming language and we train it. What is that neural network? It's nothing but we try to mimic our human brain, which is a natural neural network, because because based on study, the brain consists of billions of neurons, and all those neurons are structured in layers. So there is an architecture in the brain that combines and connects millions, rather billions of neurons, and it is thoroughly, as an integrated system. We call it as a nervous system because it connects with it connects eyes, human eyes, it connects human ears, mouth, tongue, all the sensory organs are also connected with the, what is called as brain, and it becomes nervous system. So the study of nervous system, the whole nervous system, comes under neuroscience. Linguistics, study of language. How do we understand the language? How do we process the language? How do we translate the language? How can we speak multiple languages? That is our ability. But even if you talk about Google Translate or any other tools that help in understanding, in converting, translating, and interpreting the various languages, what is that which makes it possible is a concept called as cognitive science in the center. Then anthropology, what is anthropology? It is written here, is a general study of human society and culture. We have a cognitive ability in every one of us. And this is how wherever we go across the globe, we have a understanding about the humanity. You have a understanding about the society, the culture, the diversity in the culture. We respect all the culture. We respect all the diversity. So that ability is in us. So what makes it? What affects us psychologically and philosophically, so that we have a understanding, we have a sense of respect for all the culture, humanity, civilization, and all that, that is under anthropology. So these are not only the major disciplines, but there might be many more disciplines which are associated with a interdisciplinary area or multidisciplinary area called as cognitive science. So I have just given you the definition of cognitive science, and I have also tried to, explain you that what are the domains which are covered by cognitive science. So let's start with BCI, what is called as, this is a major term which is present in the title of the course. So BCI, and before we go to the definition or the description of BCI, you can see one interesting diagram here where, there is one person, and over its scalp there is a hat like or a cap like structure. This cap like structure is nothing but it is having a number of electrodes, and all those electrodes are put, above the scalp of a human brain. And you can see this arrow is nothing but a number of wires are coming, and those wires are connected to a number of electrodes, put placed on the scalp. So what does it do whenever, there is a triggering? I will tell you what is that. So the EEG signal is recorded, and the EEG signal goes to it is sent to pre-processing. Why pre-processing is needed, you will understand in very detail. Right now, what I can tell you, because you are capturing EEG signal, there may be some interference. For example, the power line, the electrical connectivity which is connected with the device, that may interfere because EEG signals are having certain frequency. So the frequency may be, interfered by the power line interference. Power line means the cable, the electrical wire or device which is connected. Number one. Number two, doctor will always advise when you are, asked to capture the EEG signal. They'll say that keep calm, don't move your eyes, don't move your hands, don't do any movements, motory, movements. But when you start your blinking the eyes, when you start moving your hands while capturing the EEG signal, and it was not observed, noticed by the doctors, then it would not provide a very normal EEG signal. So there are methods which can be used in order to pre-process, and that interference or the noise signal can be corrected. And then once the signal is made good, it goes for feature extraction. I was talking about, it will not directly work on the EEG signal, but we will try to extract some important features. There are hundreds of features. So therefore, at this point of time, it's very difficult to tell you what are the features. So appropriate features are extracted, and there what you are very excited about called as AI, the role of AI comes to understand those features and to classify what is the brain signal, indicating, and accordingly it may be sent to the feedback, or it can perform some computing operation, or it can generate some command for the robotic or other kind of operation. So you can clearly see that there is an interface between human brain and the computing device. This is what is called as the BCI. So is also called as sometime neural control interface, NCI. Neural is, neural control means computer is connected with your neural system, nervous system, mind machine interface, MMI, direct neural interface or brain machine interface. So these are the terminologies, but most important terminology which is used is always BCI, called as brain computer interface. Direct communication. What is BCI? Is the direct communication link between an enhanced or wired brain and an external device. Your external device may be a robotic arm or a wheelchair or a medical equipment for patient health care. But and what is enhanced and wired brain? The brain which is connected with the electrodes and wired, or the brain which is enhanced. Enhanced means is the ability of brain is enhanced in order to perform the task. How this enhancement takes place, it is very difficult to explain at this point of time. We will understand definitely in the coming lectures. And what is BCI for? BCI aims at, what do we use BCI? Not only for development of assistive devices, but for a lot of research, we study BCI for mapping, between the brain and computer, assisting the patients in the healthcare, augmenting the ability. Some person is having, mental disorder or disability. The person is having some epilepsy or Parkinson's disease, where a person is unable to walk, person is stammering, because of some brain disease, not able to talk properly. That kind of augmentation or repairing for human cognitive or a sensory motor functions are all the major objectives of the BCI applications. So we will definitely touch upon some important applications of BCI in the next lectures. In today's lecture, I'm just trying to, introduce all these things so that you can have very clarity about, what is cognitive science, what is BCI, and where is the role of AI. So these are the three things. That's the idea. And also to create, great interest in all of you. Wow, this is really, it looks exciting area. That's my purpose. If it doesn't serve the purpose, I would believe that there is something wrong in me. And therefore, you need to be very interactive and can always, interrupt me. I'm sorry. So let's see one more diagram. You can see that there are EEG signals. Subject is nothing but a person. We in the study of medical science and medical signal processing, we use the term subject for a person. Suppose there are 10 persons involved in the study, we'll call number of subject is 10. So from a subject, this is a top view of the subject where you can clearly see the electrodes. From there the EEG signals are going. And what is EEG? If if you have noticed in the beginning, I told you is electroencephalograph. So electrical signal, basically electrical signal. So how do we get electrical signal? It means does our brain does our brain generate electrical signal? The answer is yes. Does our brain generate electrical signal? The answer is of course yes, right? Big yes. So these are the electrical signals. You can see here all the signals are having very small amplitude, and even the frequency is very less. I can, probably you will definitely understand if there is a high frequency signal inside the brain, even high magnitude signal, you can understand what will happen inside the brain. High frequency signals will simply damage, kill us. So the frequencies are very less, even the magnitude or the strength is very less. So we don't work directly on the signal. What do we do? As I was telling in the previous slide, we extract some suitable features. You look at here. I think here what is written is PSD. PSD is power spectral density. But this is one example. This is power spectral density of the signal. Does this feature help? The answer is yes. But there are hundreds of many more features which are used, which are extracted. And based on the PSD, you can classify and separate the different types of possibilities that this person is normal person, this person is abnormal. If the person is abnormal, how much abnormality? Say there is a Parkinson's disease. You can say, no, person is not affected. Suppose there are 10 subjects. No, you can say subject one is not affected. It's normal. Subject two, you can say it's abnormal. Subject three, you can say abnormal, but how much? Whether the Parkinson's disease, which is a brain disease, is at early stage, or at mid stage, or at the last stage. If it is the last stage, means there is a risk of even the death in a person. So that really helps you in giving you the patient care in the healthcare system. And then what do we do in the BCI? I have been telling you again and again. I think for last 1 hour, you can see it can be used for controlling the devices. It can be even used to generate the feedback signal, and also to help in the disease and disorder analysis and study of brain disorder. So brain is, as I was telling, the brain has millions of neurons, billions of neurons. Individual nerve cells are connected to one another by dendrites and axons. Axons and dendrites are explained maybe in the next slide. What is the neuron? And then every time we think, what happens? What I'm trying to tell is, where comes from the electrical signal? When you are saying electroencephalograph is EEG, so from where EEG signal comes? Electrical signal. Why it comes? The answer is, every time we think, whatever we think, whatever we move, whatever we do, whatever we feel, if we are sad, if we are happy, if we are excited, if we are enthusiastic, if we are walking, running, doing exercise, doing some other activities, remember something, forget something, our neurons always at work. It means when you are doing critical thinking, your neurons will be very busy. When you are in meditation stage, when you are meditating, hope all of you understand what is meditation. So even you are meditating, you are sleeping, you are quiet, you are working, very immensely or intensely, your neurons are at work, your neurons are performing some task. So the interconnection, the group of neurons, interact with each other, and resultantly they will emit some small electrical signal, what is called as the EEG. EEG is one example. As I have mentioned, there are many more signals which are emitted. So how do we get that electrical potential? Because when I say electrical signal means what? With the time, some electrical potential will be generated, 0.3 millivolt, 1 millivolt, zero point 0.1 millivolt, with small frequency. When you are changing the time, with the time your neurons are reacting and generating some small spikes. How does it happen? I have included in my course. I will definitely explain in very detail, because that's the fundamental basis of how does BCI work. The work is carried out, that work which is, work means neurons that are at work is carried out by small electrical signals, and that signals are actually used to transfer from neuron to neuron very fast. So what happens, as I told you, out of billions of neurons, there will be groups, millions of different groups. Each group will have bundle of neurons. So one neuron is communicating to other neuron is communicating to one more neuron. That neuron might communicate to other neuron. Finally, above your scalp, something where you have put the electrode, something will come out, what is called as the signal, which you capture, which you record as a modality. The signals are generated by the differences in electrical potential carried out by the ions of membrane of each neuron. This is the fundamental basis of brain computing. But how does it happen? Definitely, if time allows, I would love to explain how the electric potential is generated. How do we, get the different signals that is there? So the brain signals, because we are talking about BCI today, let's briefly understand today what do we mean by brain signal. You look at here, this is what I was telling in the previous slide. You see the different, the kind of emitted light, emitted signals. You can see these are not actually lights, but the signals which are emitted by the neurons, just a visual representation where from some part. And remember, when you move your eyes, when you blink your eyes, when you move your, some other sensory organs, when you talk, when you cry, when you run, when you walk, when you do some other task, it doesn't mean that from all parts of your nervous system, from all parts of your human brain, signals will be generated. No, a particular part is responsible for sensory part. Some particular part will be responsible for motory task. Motory means you are moving something. Some particular part will be responsible for learning. Some particular part will be responsible for audio visual. I will tell you in next slide probably. So you can see that you can ask one question here, Professor, from all parts of brain, why signals are not emitted? Because it depends on how much and what kind of work we are performing. So which kind of brain is responding, and which means which part of brain is active when you are doing some task. That is very important. So different modalities are generated and acquired by different biomedical devices. Like you see, what is EEG? Electroencephalography. What is ECG? Electrocardiography. But this is generally used for our cardiograph, heart, human heart. You want to know whether there is a cardiac problem or non-cardiac problem. But this is, it's just included just to explain you the biomedical signal. But this is not used, of course, for brain, brain disease analysis. But of course, remember, there might be some interconnection between the disorder and disability and the chances of cardiac arrest. But there are very limited research. That is not the point of interest of today's lecture. I'm just telling you because this ECG is appearing here. Then what is next? MEG, magnetoencephalography. MEG. What is next? Electromyography, called as EMG. There are more like functional MRI, right? Position emission tomography, that is PET. All the modalities have not been written. So there are different modalities, different type of research is carried out with the help of different types of signals. These modalities are widely used in disease and disorder detection in the area of healthcare. EEG is a test that is generally used to find problems related to electrical activities in the brain. And how do we study the electrical activities in the brain? How it can perform? It is used to track and record the brain wave patterns. So if this, I will tell you, if a particular pattern is deviated from its normal, we will understand that there is something wrong. This is how EEG can, help you in tracking the different, kind of patterns. Normal electrical activities in brain makes a recognizable pattern. If the human brain is normal, activity is normal, there is no problem in the brain. So there are some recognizable patterns. What are those patterns? Is there in the next slide? Are there in the next slide? So through an EEG device or EEG signal, the doctor can look for abnormalities. If there is any deviation from the normal, if there is any, abnormality present in the human brain signal, it can be noticed and observed by the doctor. But that's a manual inspection. The computer aided diagnoses or AI-based devices do it automatically. There may be huge amount of EEG signal, huge number of patients. So one person cannot, one or two more person, two, three doctors cannot do it in a manual way. So what do? That we use it in an automatic way involving the computer aided diagnosis with the help of computing device and AI as a expert system. Sorry. You look at here. This is a very interesting picture. I already told you in the beginning that in my slides you will find a lot of pictures, and you all know that the role of picture is to make us understand easily. So this is a brain structure, and I have copied it from therefore the citation is given. Look at here, there are a number of areas called as lobes. Parietal lobe, you look at the yellowish color, like a parietal lobe. This side you look at the down, what I can say, uh, right side down, occipital lobe, and then left side down, bottom rather is temporal lobe, and top left side is a frontal lobe. So if you look at all the areas, look at the green looking, green appearing areas, auditory association. I was telling you, all the parts have their different responding capabilities, responding functionalities, like hearing. If you hear and sense it, so which part of your brain responds when you hear something? When you smell something, through your nose you smell, right? So how do you smell? How do you get a different types of smell? So which part of your human brain, responds and reacts so that it connects with your, other parts of the body? Then what do? The smell which you don't like, you will react. Oh, it's very bad, right? And sometimes you'll try to close your mouth and close your nose, just to avoid a bad smell. So you react, you perform a certain task based on how the particular part of the brain responds. Similarly, you see this one occipital, in occipital visual association, your vision capability. Obviously, you can understand the occipital lobe will be connected with our human eyes. So there will be some nerves which will be connecting the human eyes with this particular area. The next one, you look at your speech, text, reading, somatote sensory association area. I really don't know the meaning of this. Later we will try to, because this is a biological term. Some association, with the number of sensory organs, then speech and then text, all are functionalities in parietal lobe. So you may again, have one question. What does it make any sense, having a different functionalities in different parts of the brain? Different parts of the brain, generate different types of patterns, and those patterns, the recognizable patterns, are well known, and on that basis we can understand whether there is a learning taking place, whether there is a proper hearing taking place. You will understand later. And what is frontal lobe? Obviously in the front area, so frontal lobe, this is generally, backside, which this is generally, in our eyes side that connects the, the human eyes. And this is the area of frontal lobe where speech motor cortex. You all understand motor cortex means all the movements which are controlled by our brain. You all would agree that whatever we move is controlled by the brain. If our brain stops us in moving anything, all our sensory organs, we will not do anything. So it's all controlled by brain. So which part of the human brain, prompts us, gives command to us that you move your eyes, close your eyes, open your eyes, eat something, don't like, you like it, you are happy, you are sad. So whatever you do, whatever you move, I'm sorry, whatever you move, that is controlled by this particular area. So this one, I think it gives little better clarity. Look at here. Occipital is vision, parietal is visual, reading, understanding language. So if you can understand many languages, if you can have ability to translate and, speak more and more number of languages. What about the, Italian? I just know one word only, that is ciao, right? So then you can develop this. You can speak more number of languages. You can translate from one to other. All these are abilities of this particular area. Frontal, like problem solving, creative thinking, personality trait, how, what type of this person is all decided by this particular area. Temporal lobe, it is connected with memory. What is your memorization capability? How do you recall? How much you recall? Whether you are able to recall or not. All these are, the functionalities in different parts. And the interesting thing is the different parts generate different types of patterns. I think in the next slide, I will take you. Probably you have to wait for some time because I want to tell you at least. No, I wanted it to be there. I think it will come after some time. You have to have patience. Okay, no problem. After 5 more or 6 more slides, it will come. No worry. There is no hurry. We have to do it slowly. So the nervous system I was talking about, what is, what do we understand by nervous system? See, there is an integration of human brain with the sensory organ. Look, I mean, with the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral connects. Look at, how you move your leg, How do you hear sensory input? And based on sensory input, your motor output you can generate whether you want to walk, whether you must walk or not, whether you should walk or not. It is all governed by this particular system. So this area which is covering which is including your human brain is called a central nervous system. And what is outside your brain, which is, either for input or controlling the external thing, are all under peripheral nervous system. So both are, under nervous system. Like in peripheral, sensory neurons detect stimuli. I hope you understand stimuli. How do you understand? Stimuli is a small excitation. How do we hear? Some pressure, comes and strikes on the, eardrums, and then we hear something. So there is some sensory input stimuli. Similarly to all the sensors like tongue, our eyes, some stimuli comes in our eyes, some amount of light is incident, strikes, and therefore we understand that something is visible by the human eyes. So that is part of the nervous system. And of course, it is connected with the outside world, which is called as peripheral nervous system. So I think in the previous slide, there was a mention about neurons. What is neuron? I'm sorry, as I was telling you, that there are billions of neurons which are there in the brain. So this is, a picture of single neuron. If you could remember, if you could recall in the previous slide, there were two terms called as axon, whatever you can say. So what it is doing, it is actually connecting between this one and this one, like synaptic terminals where these red colored arrows can connect with other neurons. And you look at the center of the neuron, there is a nucleus. Sometimes you call it as a powerhouse. So every center has a, neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter means that understanding whatever signal is transmitted from one neuron to other neuron or received from one neuron to this neuron, it is there in the center called as nucleus. So all neurotransmitters are there in every neuron. So from one neuron to other neuron, signal travels through axon. Like dendrites are all these points where, you can connect, or other neurons can be, connected. So these are biological description. I'm not a person of biology, by the way, right? So I'm just trying to make it simple that this is how the neuron looks like. And there are millions or billions of neurons which are structured in layers in our brain. And ultimately, how does neuron respond and interact with other neurons? And this is how the brain signal is generated. The cell body contains nucleus and dendrites detect. You look at here, what is the role of dendrites? Dendrites detect stimuli. So yeah, so connection is done by axon, not dendrite. I'm sorry. So dendrites are used to detect the stimuli. Stimuli means when I'm listening something, when I'm watching something, that excitement, small signal is detected by the dendrite or receive the signal from other neurons. Yeah, it's not absolutely, in fact, incorrect what I told you. It is received from other neurons and send the signals toward the cell body. A single axon joined to the cell body of other axon hillock. Yeah, this is axon hillock, right? Away from the cell body to other cells, neurons to the effector cells. So this is one brief description about the neuron. Small molecules called neurotransmitters are used to communicate the signal between the two neurons. I think this is very interesting diagram. When we study about cognitive ability, psychological studies, remember this cognitive science is very useful in market analysis. I'll come to that because we are still discussing overview, right? Market analysis, sentiment analysis, what type of products customers like, what type of post customers do not like on the Twitter, what type of post customer means persons do not like on LinkedIn, what types of post and the comments the persons do not like on Facebook. All these are actually cognitive science study, and that is very much dependent on the psychological impact. And this is where the cognitive is a term that is very important. So when we say cognitive ability, it combines a number of things like attention, how much concentration, how much ability to concentrate is there in a person. Whether you have attention deficit, you don't pay attention for a long time, you lose your attention. This is one of the ability. And remember, believe me, on the basis of EEG signal, this is very well studied. The evidences are there where EEG is very well used in order to study about whether the attention deficit is there, attention is very good or not. Planning, you have a skill set to plan, you are properly organized or not, you have a retention skill, you have a ability to recall or not, you have a reasoning ability or not, you have a critical thinking ability, problem solving ability or not. How much? You don't have problem solving ability, you have problem solving ability. If you have problem solving ability, how much ability you have? These are all studies, which are based on the brain signal, and of course BCI, and these all abilities and even more. These are the main which have been included in the picture, are called as cognitive abilities. All right, so BCI research. I have given you the overview of BCI. So let's talk about BCI research and why we are talking about BCI research, because research of BCI makes it possible to connect, to apply in a number of applications. So I've just included one diagram. Look at here, epilepsy. Epilepsy is one brain disorder, neurological disorder caused by malfunctioning nerve cell activity in the brain. These malfunctions cause episodes called as seizures. So whenever seizure happen and in critical condition, the person dies. So epilepsy, is a brain disorder, and there are a lot of research, evidence-based research that tells that epilepsy cure, the treatment is done by a number of BCI-based solutions. And by the way, the number of companies are working and BCI applications are coming. They are, being used in order to cure, in order to provide the treatment to the people who are affected with the epilepsy and other kind of disorders. So disease predictions, the research, BCI research is mainly there in number one area, disease prediction and analysis. Sleep, I will tell you later. We are doing one research grant. We are practically working in our lab with my research scholars, and we are getting a good, significant result, significant what I can finding or conclusion we are getting. You can study the quality of the sleep, whether the quality of the sleep is good or bad. If you are leading abnormal life, definitely your quality of sleep is bad. How can you study it? This is being studied based on the signal, epilepsy, tumor, Alzheimer's disease, and then attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is very popularly known as also called as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There is no attention, there is a lack of attention, and suddenly a person, indulges in a hyperactivity related activities or a task. So that is a disorder, and there are enough research work or the practical implementations where the ADHD is solved or is, is attempted. The work is attempted by using the BCI research. Emotion assessment, you can study about human emotion and sentiment. Cognition assessment you can make. Entertainment and marketing industry, a lot of toys, robotic toys, intelligent toys, where you can see that some sentiment is there. You can find the toys, playing with each other with some kind of sentiment, laughing, crying, and all those cognitive abilities are tried to be embedded in those devices. And this is how the entertainment industry, the marketing industry, the advertisement industry, creating different types of products using cognitive science concept and the BCI are becoming very, very popular. Rehabilitation, I have already talked in the introductory part of today's lecture. Neuro rehabilitation. You can rehabilitate a person and attempt to correct, attempt to reduce the problem of disorder and the disability. And of course, the robotics is a major area where the BCI research is going on. There are many more like environment monitoring, pollution control, the agriculture, the manufacturing. There are so many, but major areas I have just highlighted here. It doesn't mean these are the only areas where BCI research is useful. Why is BCI research necessary? I don't think this is required, but let us just read out the prevalence of, because this is also very important. Why do we need research? If some of you are interested in doing research, pursue your career in doctoral and postdoctoral research in this area, you must know that why. So the prevalence of mental disorder that manifest primarily during the adulthood in depression and anxiety, especially the COVID-19, there is enough amount of research survey that tells us that this COVID-19 has affected all of us very badly. And many of adult people, youngsters have been suffering with that particular thing, called as depression and anxiety. Many people have lost their jobs, could not continue their education, and so on. That has caused a number of difficulties related to depression and anxiety. It includes depression, anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorders, idiopathic development, intellectual disability, conduct disorders, behavioral disorders, autism, etc., etc. So these are actually challenging things, and therefore BCI is research. So there is one survey I have included here with a proper citation. Did you know depression is one of the most prevalent mental health condition in the United States, and it is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Remember, I mean, this is absolutely, alarming situation. Depression is one of the most prevalent mental health condition in the US, whereas it is the leading cause of disability, mental disability worldwide. Everywhere, no country is left with this crisis or the alarming situation. So say in 2020 there was a survey and there was an estimation. It estimated 14.8 million US adults. 14.8 million is not a small population, that too in US itself. So 14.8 million US adults aged, and that to look at mostly young guys, 18 or older adults, and 4.1 million US adolescents aged between. This is also interesting thing. Look at the data. 12 to 17 in the age range. And what was the population? Number 4.1 had at least one major depressive episode with severe impairment in the past year. This is really the alarming situation, and therefore a lot of work needs to be done in the healthcare using the BCI and the cognitive science concept, and so that we can reach out to the masses, we can create the awareness, we can provide them rehabilitation, and kind of counseling with the help of BCI in a scientific manner, so that they can actually trust in us. Otherwise, if you talk theoretically, you take them to the meditation centers, counseling centers. Many of them respond, but most of them don't respond. But if they, find some scientific, some evidence-based results that actually it works, then there will be a trust. So a lot of research is needed. Psychological studies, pure study-based research is also okay. How much the problem, how much seriousness is there in these problem, how much work has been done, what needs to be done, what is the gap, all these can be also studied as a kind of critical research problem. So I was telling you in the beginning that I will give you some assignment, so you can think of choosing one paper that talks about the severity, how severe this problem is, how much alarming this problem is, situation is, as far as the disorder and disability is concerned. That kind of study also you can do. So what are the problems, right? The brain signal, the difficulty is in the BCI. In the BCI, remember I told you that we will also try to understand a research kind of thing. So we need to understand, it means, we have to find out the problems for which we can think of, or the research is needed. So since our brain research, we use brain signal, and all the brain signals are not stationary signal, they are non-stationary, and huge amount of dimension, because you put a number of electrodes, and all those electrodes will bring a huge amount of data. Huge dimensionality is there. It is not stationary. So the nature of brain is very complex, and therefore to extract the information, an efficient analysis of the signal is required, and therefore a lot of research is needed. The brain signals are affected with psychological. If you have any psychological problem, physiological problem, technical artifact, like as I mentioned, there is a power line interference, there is a nearby some electrical activity, magnetic activity that may cause some artifact, some unwanted effect in your original signal. And then you will think that, oh, the EEG signal is not normal. So these are actually the challenges, in the area of BCI, which need to be removed carefully, which need to be addressed carefully with minimum loss of information. It means, let's understand, if there is an artifact, if there is a, some unwanted signal which is mixed with original EEG signal, and you want to separate it using some pre-processing or some signal processing method or using some ML. And while removing that unwanted signal, if you by mistake remove the original signal, that is another challenge. So cognitive assessment is subjective area in real life. To automate this, an efficient model is required. The cognitive ability is not a general, it's the term, it's actually purely subjective. It varies from one person to other. Therefore, studying it and doing research in a generic approach, in a generalized approach, is really a difficult task. And therefore, this is also considered as a major problem or a challenge in this area. Selecting, yeah, there is one more interesting problem. Selecting a proper channel among n number of channels to reduce the unnecessary data. As I was telling you, there may be 100 channels, 64 channels, 64 electrodes you can put on the scalp. But which channel is actually bringing useful information for you? But you are all bringing in your computer, extracting features from them. So which channel is more appropriate? Which channels, how many channels are optimal channels among total number of channels? Otherwise, unnecessary data is being processed by you. It is increasing your computational complexity. More memory storage is required. More time is, being taken to understand the data. So these are the challenges actually where a lot of research is also going on. A lot of research papers are being written and a lot of research activities are carried out. This is the last point. Remember, after this, we can have one break. Then optimal feature selection. Once you have decided that these channels are optimal for you, out of 64 channels, say 20 channels are important for you. From 20 channels, you are getting appropriate signal. Now, from those 20 channels, you are getting again huge amount of features. So which features are more appropriate for your study? What is called as optimal feature selection is equally important for the study. That is also important, So we have discussed about the problems, and BCI also acquires brain signals. We need to analyze these signals, translate them into commands that relay to the output devices to perform some desired actions. BCI may be invasive, semi-invasive, and non-invasive. What is this? I will explain later. The mental action of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the sense includes, it may include attention, knowledge acquisition, memory, judgment and evaluation, reasoning and computation, problem solving and decision making, comprehension of language. Remember, when you are not chatting, you can always, interrupt me and ask your question by unmuting. I won't mind even if you unmute and suggest me something over voice. That works. So this is what I was telling you, some time ago. Look at the diagram very, carefully. It's very interesting. What I was telling you is the electrical signal, and why I'm not getting the pointer. I don't understand. Let me, yeah, I got the pointer. Yeah. So I was telling you that there are different patterns which are generated and for different activities. So forget about the activities for some time. Look at the topmost wave, gamma wave, right? To look at the topmost wave called as gamma wave, and similarly beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And these are the standard patterns generated for the normal person, based on studies, lot of research. these were considered, accepted as well-defined, normalized waves for normal persons like gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. If you compare all these electrical signals, I was telling you the amplitude is very low. Look at amplitude is really low. And what is more important is even the frequency is very low. Look at the repetition, very less frequency, small frequency. But if you compare among all these, you will find delta. Look at the delta wave. The delta wave has minimum frequency. You can also say maximum amplitude, but the frequency is minimum. See here, minimum frequency. And when it is happening, when we are in sleep or when we are dreaming, and probably when we are in meditation or something, when we are in calm state, calmness is there, when we are very a peaceful, environment, you see the frequency is very less. Go to the top, gamma, highest frequency. When it is happening, though the amplitude is smaller than the delta, but the frequency is very high as compared to this. And I will tell you the range of frequency for each one of these waves. But just now I'm trying to tell you what do we mean by brain wave and how these waves are utilized in BCI. So look at the topmost problem solving. When we are engaged in problem solving ability, when we are in deep thinking, concentrating to some particular, subject or a particular object or particular topic, that time the gamma waves are generated. Beta, when we are busy, our mind is very active on work, then there is a signal called as beta. Alpha, when we are not sleeping and dreaming, but we are almost at restful state, we are reflective, we are just, observing something, watching TV, you can say, but not much, active restfulness is there. So that time alpha is there. Theta is for drowsiness. When you feel some drowsiness, then this is like this. So still the frequency is higher than that of delta. But when you finally sleep, frequency becomes almost this one. So there will be always some frequency generated by the brain. What is brain death? Brain death. When the brain dies, there won't be any emission, when there won't be any reaction, there won't be any interaction between the neurons, and the nervous system will just die. So you say that brain dead, right? So when in sleep mode, the brain is not died, brain is still working. So therefore some frequencies are generated. So these are all the patterns for the normal persons under different activities. Remember, these are the some examples only. There may be hundred thousands of activities for which the different waves can be generated, but you can always associate, like meditation is not written here. I hope you all understand meditation. So meditation is not, mentioned here. So of course, meditation will be somewhere, near to delta, because in meditation stage, you try to keep very calm. You try to forget the outside world and you just try to, see yourself, think about yourself and don't, use your brain. Try to be very, very calm. So it's almost this stage. And when you feel drowsiness, there may be other things like when you're tired, when you are tired, but your brain is not very stressed, but when you're tired and you don't want to work, then you feel laziness or drowsiness. So there may be many activities for which the theta can be generated. And if person is sleeping, now coming to the point, I told you that how do we assess the quality of the sleep? So there is a sleep lab where we assess the quality of the sleep. We have access to one research lab where the quality of sleep is studied. So the person is asked to, the subjects are asked to go for a normal sleep, and during his sleep he is not aware of we are capturing his signal. So what type of signal is generated, what type of pattern is generated, from a particular brain of a person while the person is in sleep stage. So based on that, we can compare and we can find, and we can do analysis that what quality of sleep the person is, having. So these are the brain signals which are used in the study or in the implementation of BCI. So the brain emits brain waves when we perform action because the brain cells, neurons interact with each other by sending and receiving small electrical signals. And when we see those electrical signals as brain waves. The brain waves that brain emits when performing an action are interpreted by the computer. The brain signals which are received by the computer are interpreted. EEG recording. Now coming to EEG recording, I was mentioning that, this is a like of a structure which is placed over the scalp of a human brain. And you look at these points, these are electrodes. So all those electrodes are the, nodes from which the signals are recorded. And this is what is, what the EEG signal looks like, appears like. So this is nothing but all the EEG signals are there. EEG recording. In EEG recording could be invasive or non-invasive. The non-invasive procedure use surface electrodes and are very safe and painless, right? If it is non-invasive, you are not inserting any needle or not doing any surgery. In the non-invasive, no surgery is involved, is very safe, no pain. So it's a painless method of acquiring the signal or recording the EEG signal. Human EEG can be measured using special electrodes with a typical diameter of, what is the diameter of these electrodes? Generally 0.4 centimeter to 1 centimeter, not very, wide. It's not very big one, maximum 1 centimeter diameter, that to diameter. That kind of electrodes are used in order to capture, where electrodes are placed on skull with a paste, wet or dry paste, depending on the design of electrode. Whether wet paste is required or dry paste is required, we can decide based on the design of electrode. Now their question arises, why do we need paste? Why do we need paste? Even if you remember, someone has seen or someone is aware of, when we capture ECG signal, electrocardiogram signal for analysis or diagnosis of cardiac problem of a person. So the number of electrodes are placed on your chest and your hand, some part of hand and some part of leg. Correct. So there also they will put some, some liquid or a kind of paste, and over the electrode, and then they will they will place on your body, chest or other area. So do you have idea about why do we need that paste? Yes, why do we use that paste? It may be wet or dry. Any one of you can respond or voice. All right, I waited for 10 seconds. All right, so see, electrode is the purpose of electrode is to receive electrical signal, and scalp is a body, scalp has a skin area. We want flow of electrons, the electrical signal. So we want conductive path. So to provide conductive path, we put some gel, some material which is a liquid or some paste, some gel kind of material that provides conductive path so that the signals which are coming from brain can be captured by those electrodes. This is why we put that. So the computing is also needed in BCI. A lot of IoT based applications are coming. IoT technologies are coming. There are a lot of hardware side work is going on in the development IoT software platforms, applications that involves cloud. So cloud based services are also coming using IoTs and other technology. So what are the major things where BCI activities are also implemented? Signal acquisition, processing techniques are the areas where a lot of work is going on. ML and optimization technique. I was explaining that you need to optimize the number of channels, the number of features. Once you decide these channels are more useful, then you need to optimize the suitable number of features. So therefore you need some optimization techniques. See, remember when you say optimization technique means what? Again, using some AI method. AI is something which is artificially intelligent. So the intelligent method or a technique that can help us in choosing or determining the optimal, the best possible channels for us. So that is what AI is coming into the picture. Hardware design, IoTs, and then protocols. You cannot connect the interface cables, IoT devices to do with any computing device, any device. So you need to have always some protocols that will govern, that will be, responsible for exchange of information between the brain and the computer. So IoTs and how IoTs will be connected, Internet of Things will be connected with the brain and the computing device with the help of cloud. So there are some protocols that governs this. So the common problems, there are some more common problems. Poor SNR, signal to noise ratio, when there are artifacts, when there are some unwanted signals mixed with the brain signals, that will cause the, that will badly affect the effective analysis of brain signal. Implantation of electrodes, particularly when you are doing invasive technique, we'll also understand later that what is invasive technique. So when we are doing invasive technique, their implantation of electrode is a difficult task. Where exactly you need to implant the electrode so that you can get the most meaningful data, most meaningful information from the brain. So that's a real time challenge. And then high dimensionality of data and large number of features. I have already explained about this huge number of features and from a number of channels. So the total amount of data is definitely is increased. So dimensionality of data is huge. Information transfer rate is whether it is proper or not. Information data transfer rate, if it is not good, say it is a cloud-based service, then the service or the response will be affected. Response time will be badly affected. Selection of channels, I have already explained. Variation between different individuals. If you remember, we made one statement, the study of cognitive ability, the cognitive science research is actually subjective area. There may be variation from one person to other person. So getting into generalized conclusion, is a very difficult task. So of course, therefore, it remains as a research problem and the challenge. Difficulty in obtaining precise and accurate results because brain is the very sensitive and the complex part of the body. And therefore, getting precise data and getting accurate data and accurate result based on that data is really challenging task and there are a lot of difficulties. And this is why this is also one of the major problem in the brain research. So what do we do? What do we do in the cognitive science research? You can see that there are always some exciting and interesting pictures on every slide that tells you that cognition means human brain, the psychology, the mathematical, the astrological point of view, the analytical point of view, everything of the brain, it's actually highlighting in the picture, depicting in the picture. So how to engineer the AI system often comes from careful study of cognitive powers of the brain. How to develop the devices, how to develop the systems, how to engineer them. Engineer them means so that it can capture the data, it can process the data, sensory data properly, and accordingly it can provide a appropriate decision making commands, or it can help in assistive technologies in disease and disorder analysis. So we need to engineer the AI-based system very, very carefully, and the engineering, that design, the thought must be very much relevant, based on the careful study of what is the cognitive power and ability of the human brain. That is the research problem. The Department of Cognitive Science at John Hopkins, there is a Department of Cognitive Science at John Hopkins. You must have heard about John Hopkins a number of times, especially during the COVID-19 period. There were a lot of studies, surveys coming from this department, and this, especially Johns Hopkins, studies the mind, that this department studies the mind as a computational system. They consider mind as a computational system, which is involved in a number of computational tasks, and it has number of abilities related to computation, with a particular emphasis on language and spatial representation. How is the understanding of language? How is the understanding of a spatial pattern? The pattern may be image, real-time scene, video. So that understanding of language and the spatial data, how much data it is there, that computational power is there in the brain, and that is exploited in order to develop the software algorithms and the models. What functionalities does the cognitive system compute, and how the cognitive system or the cognitive method computes those functions? What representation formats and algorithms does the mind employ? Cognitive psychology, cognitive neuroscientific studies with functional MRI and other techniques, cognitive neurophysiological investigations of children, adults with brain injuries or developmental disabilities, and computational modeling. These are all parts of, the research. Even if a child is not born, what is the developmental, that is cognitive developmental, process, whether the development of cognitive functionalities is proper or not. There are research going on even before the birth of a child. That kind of research is also happening. So when we mentioned about cognitive engineering, what is cognitive engineering is you look at the diagram, it's all development engineering over the brain, application of cognitive science theories to human factor problems. There is a cognitive science theory that based on the psychology and philosophical aspect of the brain to convert into human factor problems, research directed at solving applied problems, research directed at developing engineering tools that others with less cognitive training can use to solve applied problems. Robotics, that you all know it very well, what kind of architecture will be there so that proper decision making will be there with involvement of cognitive abilities that can actually help in perceiving the data very properly, in providing the commands very properly, so that that kind of architecture, that kind of network where the understanding, the perception and generating appropriate commands are all fit into the objective and scope of the implementation and application, deploying the robots for that particular task. So engineering robots whose actions are a function of knowledge. How does robot perform a task? It applies the knowledge which it acquires after training, and then belief, and then preferences. You provide the preferences to the robot accordingly. It engages in different tasks and plans accordingly. It acts on the basis of actions of human beings. How do we do what? How do we think to be, to it, a task to be performed, a task to be planned and structured, and accordingly the brain works. So cognitive modeling, when we talk about cognitive modeling, we develop a number of models. All those models are based on some kind of AI technique. And when we say AI, when we go deeper, ML comes. When we further go deeper, you all are, very familiar with the term. Everyone talks about in Python library, in other libraries, in open source, platforms called as DL, deep learning. So when you go even deeper, it comes deep learning, because deep learning is needed where huge amount of data is involved, especially you might have heard about self-driving car. So self-driving car is a brilliant example of sensor technology and AI. If I ask you what is self-driving car, there are two major technologies. One is thousands, rather hundreds of sensors are there. They're all smart and intelligent sensors. So it's a combination, beautiful example of sensor technology and artificial intelligence. So there, some kind of deep learning is needed. Otherwise, in the real time scenario, huge amount of data, videos are captured, and having understanding to take decision and run the car is safely without meeting and averting the accidents. So therefore, the DL kind of model is also needed in cognitive modeling, where you can have a lot of data mining in order to know your particular areas, or the data of your interest you can mine. Integrated cognitive system is therefore very complex. Computational cognitive models are used to provide progress towards understanding how integrated cognitive system affect and are affected by the environment. I was trying to give you an example. Say a driverless car is running, right? And suddenly heavy rain starts, or suddenly your the weather becomes hazy, or suddenly boy comes in front of car. Suddenly there is a water logging in front of a school, and from the school kids are coming outside, and the self-driving car is maintaining at certain speed. So there is some water due to the rain in front of the school where the kids are coming outside, and the driverless car still runs with the same speed. So you can understand what will be the problem. A dirt will be thrown on the kids who are coming from the school. So that kind of understanding, the ability to understand the environment, environmental factors is there or not, is there, which is called as, which is covered, which is intended to be there in the model called as computational cognitive model. Computational linguistics. Linguistics always is related with, that language that involves deep understanding of semantics and intent, and logically controlled languages for learning by reading, using human language to retrieve and analyze information from heterogeneous sources, because the number of sources which are involved in learning will be many. There may be many sensors capturing the data from environment, external sources, and there may be other inputs which are received from a number of sensors. So I think there are one more interesting diagram in this slide you look at here. I just had a heated conversation with my computer. How pictorially it is, just for a humor, I have included this. So what is important is linguistic, the linguistic plays very important role. The language plays very important role to make the computer understand very nicely. So when you say computational linguistics, it involves so many things. Remember, how do you express? How do you speak? It is affected by number of things. How do you translate? It is affected by number of things. It is definitely controlled by psychology. Whether you are stammering, whether you are speaking very confidently, whether you are translating correctly, whether you are, pleasing everyone, whether you are speaking truth or, honestly, it is definitely controlled by psychology. Then AI is again controlled by psychology, computer science, language engineering, human computer interface. This is nothing but human computer interface, correct? And then signal processing is everywhere. And when you say signal processing, what does it mean? Extracting the features, attributes, understanding the attributes, using some classifier to understand those attributes. So you need some mathematical model, what you call as a ML model, the artificial intelligence models, they're what? They're nothing but mathematical tools. How do you code a particular method or particular algorithm? You write some mathematics. So there is a mathematics, behind the background, strong background of all the algorithm is nothing but mathematics. So mathematics and statistics, you want to quantify something, you want to assess the performance, how much is the accuracy, how much is the classification the BCI is able to do, whether disorder is there or not. If disorder is there, how much disorder. So you need to use some statistics, then only you can do it. And if there is mathematics, electrical engineering is involved, because the electrical signals are there, language and linguistics that involve semantics, syntax, what kind of grammatical structures are needed to understand the language, to translate the language, what kind of word, what I can say, what power is needed. And of course, without any philosophy or logic, you don't speak. We don't use the language. There is always logic. We use certain logic. So logic. So you can see that when you say computational linguistics, it's not only the language which is, interpreted by the computer. It involves a number of, interdisciplinary, the other multidisciplinary areas without which the computational linguistic, which is actually which assists the computer to understand the brain functionality and what is the brain wanting to convey, will become very, very difficult. Perception and action. When you say computational linguistics, how do you perceive? How do you act? That depends on the sensory organs. Look at here. Sensory organs may capture the signals, then they are processed by using a number of fuzzy logic or artificial neural network. They can be used in the consumer feedback, market survey, food design, sensory analysis, and so on. But what is important is the signal. And how do you get the signal? The signal may be from the taste sensory or the speech or the hearing organ. This is just an example. So when you are testing something, you want to understand what is the taste, and based on you can, you are doing some research based on consumer feedback. For example, the consumer feedback you want to do for a restaurant, right? That what kind of food, what quality of food is served. So it's connected with this kind of scenario, test transduction, then signal is converted in the form of EEG. So the whether I felt taste or in my food or not, it is also reflected with my happiness, the pleasure which I enjoyed my food with is also indicated with the help of EEG or other kind of signal. And there may be many factors that can influence like age. A particular taste can be indicated differently by different age groups. The state of mind, when you are eating and your mind is somewhere else, even your taste is very good, but you are not, stable. You are having some stress, something like that. That will also affect your taste of food. Habit, what is your habit? Food temperature, what is the amount of temperature that you really like in the food. Of course, the gender is also much can't be said here, but gender also affects, is one of the influencing factor in this. And then what kind of taste, whether it is a sweet, bitter, salt, sour, umami, or whether it's a good, bad, all these analysis can be done even using this kind of signal, what is called as brain signal. So how do you perceive? How do you act? When you feel that food is tasty, you will react something, you will act something. So coordination of eye and hand movements and the integration of perception and action with higher level cognition is covered there. And then computational neuroscience. What is computational neuroscience? Look at the diagram at bottom. I was explaining the structure of the brain where you look at the diagram carefully, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe. All these are the different parts, different areas in the brain. And the cognitive neuroscience, can capture the data from any part in the form of EEG. And then you can study the behavior, whether the passive behavior, active behavior, if it is active, assertive behavior, aggressive behavior, abnormal behavior, normal behavior, all these kind of studies are very, very easily done, carried out with the help of EEG signal. So this comes under computational neuroscience because you are capturing the neurological signals and how does nervous system of a person respond, whether the person responds badly, adversely, non-adversely, normally, abnormally, this can be ascertained using the neurological signals. And even you can think of what is the memory sequence, how does stimuli respond to a person, same stimuli is received by me or other person, how does my brain and other person's brain respond to it, what kind of memory it is using in order to recall something based on memory or something like that. That is covered under computational neuroscience. Uses This neuroscience uses tools of mathematics, computers in development of theoretical models, which are used to test and expand workings of brain and behavioral process. It seeks not just to create intelligence, but to illuminate. The computational illuminance is also to illuminate the processes that underlie sensation and perception and control of action, learning and memory language, and other cognitive process. I'm on full screen mode. I could hear some sound. If someone has sent chat box, some chat message, I'm unable to see. So if you have something in the chat box, you can speak up and convey over the voice also. It's all right with me. I don't know. There was some voice I heard, whether it's indication of, going for closer of the meeting or some chat. I didn't understand. New understanding of algorithm drives mental machinery, right? These all areas are covered under computational neuroscience. I was talking about advancement of technology. Look at the diagram, adjusted robotics behavior, where you can control the robot even, the behavior of robot with your mind. So EEG system decoding, and then you can, even adapt. The robots can adapt to your thought and your thinking. The technologies are advancing in that area, is bringing a new frontier in the healthcare by unlocking new mysteries towards solving several number of challenges. And we are also moving now to fascinating areas will be if someone tells you that you can control machines using your brain or neural activity alone, with your brain only, without any either using wired or wireless system, you can control a number of devices just thinking and doing. So we are definitely moving forward in that direction. Significant progress has not yet been accomplished or achieved, but of course a lot of work is being done in this area called as BCI. Such applications where we are moving forward in the largely experimental stage. Most of them are in the experimental stage. I told you a much successful result has not been yet achieved, but there are a lot of experimental studies going on and can be practically possible with the evolving technology called as BCI. So what is the role of BCI? We are talking about overview of BCI, importance of BCI, how does it impact the society and the healthcare. So what role it plays? It provides an assistive, adaptive, and rehabilitative application. One is assistive, it assists the healthcare, the patients who are having some disabilities. Of course, when we are saying assistive, adaptive, and rehabilitative, we are going to, include examples with some results, with some suitable algorithms for each and every category in lectures to come. And also allows the BCI allows human brain and external device to exchange signals or talk to one another also, each other also. BCI makes possible for humans to control machines without movement of the body directly, just wirelessly, think and do. Used in neuroergonomics, where the comfort, the entertainment industry, the comfort, the mechanical designs, and a smart environment, neuro marketing, advertising, education, games, entertainment industry, etc. You can just think that, the temperature has to come down, some appliances, IoTs, which are used to control pollution, radiation, can start working if there is, some uncomfort which you are feeling and you want to just control those appliances without the direct communication. It's all becoming possible one by one slowly. Brain machine interface, what is called as BMI, that allows for excellent collaboration between IoTs and the BMI technologies, resulting in a smart environment such as I was telling you, a smart home where safety is involved, security is involved, ambience is involved, transportation, smart workplaces are the areas where a lot of brain machine interfaces are happening and working. This is really creating the revolution in the healthcare for patients with certain who are affected with neurodegenerative disorders and physical disabilities. So it's kind of, blessing, the BCI for all these people who are affected with some disorders and disabilities. Going back, because this lecture still lot was planned to be covered, but in next 7-8 minutes, we'll try to discuss some more about history and still some background. I hope I have tried my best to, give you an exposure to what cognitive science is, what BCI is, how they are interrelated, what is the research potential, and what kind of applications, these two terms, are making possible. I believe you could gain, clear-cut understanding and comprehension about what I have mentioned. So talking about the history, let's not much, discuss about the concept of cognitive term, BCI actually appeared. It came into light in 1924 when Hans Berger discovered that some electrical activity was observed and discovered of the brain. It was realized. And then there was a development in 1970s in California, UCLA. The actual and practical research on BCI application was actually started in 70s in California. And experimental studies were performed on animals actually initially to establish. See what happens when you actually want to do some research in an area or when you want to understand the capabilities of some research area or a topic, you need to understand historical background as well. How the research was originated, on what basis they actually moved forward. So therefore, this history is equally important. Like, when they started with experiments on animals to reach to some conclusion about whether if there is any new or direct communication path between external environment and the brain. So in 73, then Jacques Weidel published a paper. First time, a very first paper published was published on BCI called as the title was Toward Direct Brain Computer Communication. So you can see that in 70s in 1973, a first of its kind of paper, an article on this similar title or a title relevant title was published in 73. During 69 and 70, very first test with BCI development were carried out on monkeys, because I told you that it was started with animals. In 90s, attempts with human beings were performed. So in fact, the brain computer interface, especially testing on human being, started in 90s only. And then in 2000, like Jonathan, Walpa gave the first full definition of BCI based on human brain. So how does it work is very simple. Look at here. I think this diagram, the description of the diagram already appeared before. We acquire the signal, we pre-process the signal, we process the signal, we extract the features, we classify the features, then goes to application interface. Application interface may be API, IoTs, or whatever. And that can include computers, means you can prompt the computer to do something. Neuroprosthesis you can do, spelling devices, virtual environment, any task can be performed by this interface. So this is how your brain computer interface. And of course, there will be role of feedback signal. Why feedback signal? I have some difficulty. I can definitely, do certain tasks, read some feedback commands in the form of voice, image, text, and definitely it will affect my brain and try to you know, provide some remedial kind of signal, feedback signal, and try to correct the disability and disorder which was there in the brain. So this is one example actually. How does work? Very simple. You connect the brain with the computer, means you acquire the signal from the brain. You acquire the signal quality may not be proper and appropriate. You pre-process the signal, then you process the signal. You extract certain attributes by using some mathematical model. By when you once you get the features, you train some models to understand what the features are. You come to the conclusion and try to classify, develop some decision making, develop some understanding, generate some commands with by applying AI model or ML model. And those commands and classifier outputs can be used in the disease diagnosis, whether there is a brain tumor or not. I didn't mention the term brain tumor. Remember, BCI is also intended to be applied for the study of brain tumor disease disorder, detection and diagnosis also. So whether there is a brain tumor or not, whether if there is a tumor, what is the dimension of the tumor, and then different types of disabilities disorder, controlling the robots and different IoT tools and devices. All these are covered, and that comes using the BCI and the signal. And of course, some rehabilitation is possible in BCI where you can generate some feedback signal and rehabilitate the person, by just providing the feedback stimuli. Stimuli may be anything like text wise or other kind of thing. Computer chips, when it comes to the hardware implementation, computer chips are programmed in such a way that the chips can convert the neural signals into actual action, actual commands or prompts or the signal. BCI therefore must decode the signal and translate them into meaningful commands. And how do we, use AI in order to generate the meaningful commands? AI, the role of computing device, the artificial intelligence is needed and to output the device and accomplish the user's intention. So this is how the BCI works. I